Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to you, sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Job chapter 10, verses 21 to 22. Before I go whence, I shall not return, even to the land of darkness and the shadow of death, a land of darkness as darkness itself, and of the shadow of death, without any order, and where the light is as darkness. And if you can receive it, you know, this is Job speaking of America, the valley of the shadow of death, because reincarnation is biblical. And when you read in Job chapter 19, it says, though my flesh be eaten with worms, and I know I'm roughly paraphrasing, you know, I shall stand in the last days and see my Redeemer. Hey, Job is back here today, you know, prophesying, you know, most likely in America, waiting for the return of not just his Redeemer, but the Redeemer of the nation of Israel, or you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you know, as a whole, who is, you know, Yahawashi, the true name of the Son of God, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus. But like I said, you know, this land of darkness, the shadow of death, is speaking of America, because over here, you know, they call evil good and good evil. This nation under Esau Edom, the so-called white man, does everything clean contrary to the laws, statutes, and commandments in the scriptures. Hence why you see the degenerate state that this country is in, and pretty much anywhere, you know, these Edomites dwell. Alcohol and, you know, drug use is normalized. You know, adultery is normalized. The alphabet lifestyle, the list can go on and on. And I opened up the video with this verse to preface this quick clip from Middle Nation's YouTube channel titled When You Talk to an American. And as this guy's about to observe, hey, you have to keep your guard up whenever you talk to an American, because you don't know where they're coming from. Because again, this is a highly degenerate, medicated, and addicted nation. Why? Because, you know, they call evil good and good evil, a land where darkness is as light, truly the valley of the shadow of death, which you can't even call the American lifestyle a lifestyle. It is a death style. And that's what you get when the basest of men, Esau Edom, is in rulership, a servant, which, before we get this, let's get Ecclesiastes in the Bible, chapter 10, verses 6 to 7. Folly, you know, foolishness, vanity is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in a low place. The rich, speaking of the children of Israel, who are clearly sitting in a low place. Your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are what? The first fired, the last hired. You're looked at as the problem of society. You know, welfare queens, thugs, niggas, you know, illegal immigrants. The list goes on and on. Verse 7, I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth. And you know, those servants are speaking of you Edomites, the so-called white people. And a perfect visualization of that was that statue at, I believe, the New York Museum of History, where it was a statue of Theodore Roosevelt on a horse. And who did he have on his left and his right side walking upon the earth? A Gadite, or so-called Native American, and a Judite, or so-called African American. So when you have a servant upon horses or in rulership, what do you have? Folly or foolishness set in great dignity, which again, just look at this clown show called America. I think it was George Carlin that made a beautiful quote. He said, when you're born onto this earth, you get to see the circus. But if you're born in America, you've got a front row seat to the circus. But before we start this clip, this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
Whenever I talk to an American, whenever I have to talk to an American, I kind of go into that interaction assuming that I'm dealing with someone who's not normal. That's a shame. And I think everyone outside of America approaches it the same way. You know, even if they don't consciously realize that this is what they're doing, you have to make adjustments when you're talking to an American. You kind of lower your expectations. You know, you go into it knowing that you're not going to have a normal interaction. Just for example, I don't know whether or not the person sitting across from me is even sober or not, because at least half of the population drinks alcohol regularly. 1 out of every 5 Americans is an alcoholic. I think it's something like 1 in 3 do drugs. 1 in 6 Americans are either misusing or abusing prescription.
And if I could, say this, with my job, it brings me, around town all the days of the week to the point to where I see the same people, throughout the week. And, I work in New Orleans, and, I see the same people at like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever in the morning, drinking, just getting a drink like it's normal. Whenever you walk around, you more often than not, at least at one point in the day, smell a hint of weed. And a lot of these people, especially these women, are on prescription drugs. Because why? Esau Edom, that servant, has pushed that do as thou wilt lifestyle, just completely feeding your flesh. And what he's got people just strung out on this Babylonian American lifestyle.
Drugs at any given time.
And
not to mention 1 out of every 5 Americans.
Continue. Rewind.
Something like 1 in 3.
And that's just a reflection of Esau Edom himself, because he is the ultimate carnal man out here. I mean, look, we're talking about a man who sold his birthright of the firstborn, and for what? For some raw meat and a stew of lentils, a complete fast food mentality, which when you look at America, people have that, microwave, fast food, I gotta have it now mentality, which, let's get that. This is Hebrews chapter 12. I'm gonna read verses 16 to 17. Lest there be any fornicator. And, a fornicator is somebody who's involved in a lot of, fleshly, illicit acts, or profane person. And profane means you're outside of the temple. You're an unholy person, which is definitely the case with Esau Edom. As Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. And again, when you read that story in Genesis 25, Esau was out, hunting, and Jacob, was cooking some food, and Esau came in and was like, I'm at the point of dying. And Jacob said, hey, give me your birthright and I'll give you some of this food. And Esau despised his birthright for a carnal microwave moment just to fill his belly. And then what? He lost the birthright of the firstborn. And then when you read in Genesis 27, what? He was supplanted to the blessing of the kingdom of heaven. And this is who you have ruling. So hence, that's why these people out here are impulsive. A lot of them don't have any self-restraint and just go off of their base instincts. Which, what does it say in Ecclesiasticus or Sirach chapter 10? I'm going to read verses 1 to 3. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. And the only way to truly govern this earth is under the laws, statutes, and commandments of the scriptures. And when we get the definition for that word prudent, what does it say? The ability to use reason to control and discipline oneself, being careful about choices and thinking before acting, which we can clearly see that wasn't the case with Esau. He didn't use self-control or discipline, or wasn't careful about making choices. So he was supplanted from the birthright and the blessing to the kingdom of heaven. Verse 2, as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. And back in that Ecclesiastes chapter 10, a servant is riding upon horses or in power. So folly is set in great dignity. We've got a man who's a great fornicator and profane person, pushing his, impulsive mindset onto the rest of the world. Hence why a lot of these people, especially in America, are bugged out. Hence why the guy in that clip says you have to keep up your guards when dealing with an American, because you don't know whether they're sober or not, or they're heavily propagandized, or just a mentally ill degenerate. Verse 3, an unwise king destroyeth his people. And when you look around at not just these people in America, but the world as a whole, hey, it's decaying. You've got chemtrails in the sky, pollution in the ocean, men and women hate each other to where, you have these this hookup culture, and a lot of people aren't getting married anymore or having kids. Drug and alcohol addiction are at an all-time high. You've got GMO foods giving people cancers and making them obese. We could be here for hours talking about the unwise practices that this servant pushes upon the people. But through the prudence, the discipline, the ability to make wise choices and deny yourself, but through the discipline of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. And when the children of Israel are back in power, beginning with the elect, the laws, statutes, and commandments are going to be pushed on this planet, and everything is going to be, put right side up instead of this upside world we're in right now. Which, let's get that. X some of this out. Let's see. I'll read verse 17. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. For ye know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. And that's ultimately going to be the fate of you Edomites. You're going to be taken out of power, and you're going to have no place of repentance, because, after the first 1,000 years of the kingdom of heaven, these heathen nations, though they're going to be in hardcore bondage and slavery like you, they're going to be allowed to go back to their lands and, live at peace under the laws, statutes, and commandments. But as for you Edomites, every single Edomite man, woman, and child is going to be gathered up and permanently culled from this planet by fire. But like it said back in Sirach 10:3, through the prudence of a wise ruler, the government shall be well ordered. This is Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, because everything is going to be working how it's supposed to work. Clean environment, clean food, and a healthy, relationship with men in their roles and women in their roles. And just everything perfect. When the princes are back upon the horses. But when the wicked beareth rule, when servants are upon horses, the people mourn, because folly is set in great dignity.
Do drugs. 1 in 6 Americans are either misusing or abusing prescription drugs at any given time. Not to mention 1 out of every 5 Americans has some sort of mental, psychological, or emotional disorder. I mean, this is a big thing that they talk about, the mental health crisis. We've talked about that before. So literally, you never know what you're going to get when you sit down and talk to an American. These are people that don't value the sanctity of their own minds, their own cognition. They're willing to abuse their own brains. And they act like this isn't a major issue. Well, it is a major issue. This is a people who habitually inflict self-harm on their own ability to reason and to think. It's no wonder that so many Americans subscribe to some very strange ideas and beliefs and conspiracy theories and so on. Just under half of all Americans believe in things like astrology and ghosts and UFOs and aliens and lizard people and what have you, reincarnation.
And that's where old boy's going off, because, reincarnation is a true fact of life, which we can get in the scriptures. Like I brought out, earlier, Job, in Job 19, Job says that he'll be back to see his Redeemer come, though his, flesh and body rotted and died in the past. But, while this guy brings out a lot of information, he's a Mohammedan. So he believes in misinformation himself, fake news from the Catholic Church.
Manifestation, all these quasi.
And what's funny about that manifestation thing is the other day I ran into somebody I went to high school with, and I was just picking their brain, and they were talking about manifestation. I'm manifesting my reality, while he was buying 3 cans of beer, and then he going home later to get drunk and smoke some weed.
Spiritual New Age beliefs and whatnot, superstitions. So this is the people who don't take their own mind seriously. And this is what their culture has done to them. This is what their society has done to them. 1/3 of Americans are below literacy levels and haven't even read a book in the last year, in the last 12 months. Not to mention that they're so heavily propagandized, indoctrinated, and manipulated by their own media and their own schools. And most Americans don't even leave the United States. I think it's less than half of Americans even have a passport. So the chances are very low. If you come across a random American, the chances are very low that person is not under the influence of alcohol or drugs or medication, mental illness, misinformation, disinformation, miseducation.
When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, when those servants are upon horses, the people mourn, because folly is set in great dignity. But, like I just said, there's a silver lining to everything. Esau and these Edomites as a whole will be taken out of power, and the rightful rulers, those princes, will be set back upon those horses, and the laws, statutes, and commandments will be enforced, and this world will finally know peace. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.